The Mississippi River does not announce its decisions. It does not argue, does not warn, does not explain. It simply moves. On its banks, entire towns once arranged their lives around that certainty. Its schedules, its wealth, its promise of permanence. Streets turned toward the water. Churches listened for its low murmur. Commerce trusted its flow. For a time, that trust held. Rodney, Mississippi was no frontier outpost, no footnote. It was a system, financial, cultural, human, built with confidence, reinforced by success. Cotton moved steadily. Money accumulated. Institutions rose. Ambition hardened into brick and belief. Then the river changed course. Not in one dramatic instant, not as a catastrophe suited to legend, but through slow accumulation. Disease, fire, war, policy, sediment, each blow survivable alone, together irreversible. This is not a tale of mystery or myth. It is a record of human decisions colliding with forces that do not negotiate, of a town that followed the logic of its era perfectly and was still erased. Like Cahaba, Rodney exposes a pattern older than the nation. When environment and ambition diverge, ambition seldom prevails. What remains is not mere ruin, but evidence. Quiet, flooding, patient. The river endures, the town does not. A town placed with confidence. Rodney did not grow by chance. It was placed, long before incorporation, before banks, newspapers. Brick facades, this stretch of river held value. The Mississippi narrowed here, tightened into a crossing known as Petty Gulf. Current slowed, just enough. Native paths met. Spanish routes crossed. El Camino Real claimed the bend as infrastructure, not scenery. What came next was alignment, deliberate. By the early 19th century, the calculation stood clear. River traffic required nodes. Cotton required speed. Rodney occupied the point where the current still obliged. The landing functioned. Boats halted. Goods shifted. People remained. The town incorporated only after success had proven itself. Renaming for Judge Thomas Rodney in 1814 carried no sentiment. It conferred legitimacy, tied the place to law, authority, national weight. While it clung physically to one variable, the river's proximity. Power here derived not from size, from efficiency. Cotton did not simply pass. It was processed. Rushnut's Petty Gulf hybrid lifted yields. Steam gins quickened separation. Plantation volume met industrial rhythm. This was no raw frontier trade. It was integrated, competitive, modern. In the 1850s, Rodney moved more traffic than ports that would endure. Between New Orleans and St. Louis, none shipped more cotton. The river repaid precision. The town rose in answer, not sprawling, but ascending. Banks formed as capital demanded order. Newspapers rose as influence sought voice. Churches grew as permanence sought right. An opera house arrived because confidence permits flourish. Oakland College stood close, confirming the conviction that this place would last. Rodney conducted itself not as a boomtown, as a capital in waiting. By 1860, 4,000 lived within its bounds, outnumbering Jackson, the state capital. No irony, simple arithmetic. River access defined relevance, and relevance then seemed fixed. Yet the Mississippi honors no reputation. The town's wealth rested on no broad foundation, no redundancy. It was one elegant answer to one precise condition, and every such answer presumes the condition holds. Rodney was not fragile from carelessness. It was fragile because it was exact. When stability first fractured, the first warning came not as destruction, it came as absence. In the summer of 1843, Rodney neither burned nor flooded. It emptied. Yellow fever spread quicker than rumor. Rumor outpaced truth. Families abandoned furniture. Shops shut without word. Streets fell silent. Newspapers elsewhere called the town almost depopulated. Not from collapsed structures, from flight. The river, often accused of violence, stood innocent. This was internal, biological, invisible, indifferent to wealth. Rodney endured the outbreak. Yet something vital shifted. The sense of insulation fractured. The town discovered for a moment. That position offered no shield against everything. 4 years later, the fever returned. The 1847 wave was smaller, more corrosive. It no longer shocked. It accustomed people to departure. Leaving turned routine, not desperate. The notion that Rodney could become uninhabitable, temporarily, lodged in memory. The town stayed productive. Confidence, however, began to erode. Then came the war. The same strategic value that had raised Rodney now drew unwanted notice. The river exposed it. Cotton marked it. Relevance in wartime meant vulnerability. On September 13, 1863, Confederate cavalry interrupted service at Rodney Presbyterian Church. 17 Union soldiers captured inside a space meant for contemplation. Retaliation followed swiftly, impersonal. The USS Rattler shelled the town from the water. No siege, no prolonged hold. Only correction. Shells ripped through buildings never fortified. Never required to be. The church took hits. Homes suffered. The intent was plain. Rodney had lost its neutrality. It was now a mark. War did not obliterate the town. It disrupted its foundations. The plantation order broke. Enslaved labor, the core mechanism, vanished. Cotton persisted. The scaled profit system did not rebuild evenly. What followed was not swift collapse, imbalance. Structures stood. The port operated, yet margins shrank. Recovery called for resilience the town had never cultivated. Its design favored uninterrupted flow, not rupture. By war's end, Rodney had withstood plague, exodus, bombardment. Still present, apparently viable, seemingly mendable, but sequence carried weight. Each blow landed before the prior wound closed. Each strain stripped buffer. The town mastered endurance, not reinvention. Then in 1869, endurance faced a limit no system could contain. Fire does not bargain with the past, erasure without collapse. The fire did not declare an end. It gathered speed. In 1869, flames swept Rodney's commercial heart too swiftly for intervention. A steamer passenger watched the town enveloped in fire. Not one structure, not one block. The core, the engine converting labor to wealth, burned away. This was logistical loss. Stores erased. Warehouses fallen. Records incinerated. Ledgers, stocks, contracts, gone in hours. Insurance scarce. Capital wary. Rebuilding demanded faith in a payable future. Rodney retained the river. That conviction lingered. Unseen by anyone, the river had already begun its departure. Upstream, sediment built. Sandbars rose gradually, no haste. The Mississippi neither inundated nor uprooted the town. It redirected its course. By around 1870, the main channel lay west, almost 2 miles distant. The landing lost purpose before it lost access. Boats ceased arriving first, then ceased pausing. Trade shifted paths, silently, efficiently. A port without water is not destroyed. It is overlooked. Rodney reacted with restraint. No alarm, no exodus. Residents expected adjustment. Rivers changed temper. This one would swing back. It always had. It did not. As water receded, the town's vital edge reversed. Distance supplanted proximity. What once attracted commerce now deterred it. Costs mounted. Schedules slipped. Rivals adjusted quicker from positions already secure. Railroads sealed the shift. Lines crossed the region indifferent to detour. They obeyed new rules, direct routes, fixed timetables, consolidated industry. Rodney, no longer a port, held no bargaining power. Progress continued without pause. This was not demolition, omission. No order shuttered the town. No date recorded defeat. Fire stripped means, river stripped purpose. Railroad stripped options. Combined, they produced a state without culprit or remedy. By the time inhabitants grasped the change, nothing appeared damaged enough to mend. Buildings endured. Churches convened. The cemetery received its due. Yet the town no longer linked to anything beyond its borders. Rodney did not buckle under force. It emptied under quiet. Once peripheral, every lingering decision grew heavier, slower, more isolated. What remains after purpose leaves? Rodney did not empty in a rush. It thinned. As trade faded, families lowered their sights. Children departed first for education, employment, cities still oriented toward tomorrow. Those who remained grew older, tending a place that no longer renewed itself. By the early 20th century, decline had turned demographic. The Presbyterian Church, once crowded with merchants and planters, listed only 23 members. In 1923, the building stood firm. Its congregation did not. Services grew hushed. Upkeep turned voluntary. Postponed repairs slid into rot. In 1930, Mississippi revoked Rodney's township charter. The act closed no doors, displaced no one. It merely recorded what had already occurred. The state no longer required oversight here. Disincorporation ended no lives. It ended obligations. What lingered was terrain that still resembled a town yet lacked standing to claim safeguard. Roads contracted, services withdrew. Floods arrived often, then routinely. The river, now disciplined by distant federal works, returned not with trade, with force. 20th century floods reshaped the remnants. The 1927 deluge spared Rodney no direct blow, yet bypassed it in national regard. Focus fixed on magnitude, mastery, prevention. Marginal sites bore the overflow risk. Subsequent inundations completed the process, gradually. In 1993, extended high water confirmed an existing policy. Buyouts, withdrawal, merger. The river had ceased to be a partner. It became a variable optimized elsewhere. By 2011, waters again reached the last structures, eroding bases long softened by seepage. The surviving fragments speak without voice. The red brick Presbyterian church endures. Federal style, 1832. Above one window, a replica cannonball notes the 1863 strike. Not ornament, marker. Below, flood scour undercuts the base, quietly achieving what shells could not. Mount Zion Baptist Church, once white, later black as populations shifted, bears its own burden. Gothic lines and domed belfry persist. The interior has taken water repeatedly. Congregation change shows resilience. Damage shows limits. Commerce Street survives its trace. Alston's general store reduced to foundation, an imprint of intent without use. Higher up, the cemetery overlooks. Names from the vital era gather there, proof that endurance was once expected. Today, a few individuals still inhabit the site, not as emblems, not as defiance, as dwellers with motives outside official diction. Rodney is no longer a town that failed. It is a place without influence, and places without influence cannot dictate their place in memory. The river's pattern, repeated. Rodney's vanishing feels personal because it is small, yet it stands in company. Along the Mississippi and its tributaries, towns emerged and faded by identical terms: closeness, harvest, transit. While the river complied, wealth arrived. When it altered, by course or decree, whole networks came undone. Without uproar, West Alton, Missouri did not vanish from want of trying. It occupied the exact junction of two rivers, a site once valued for reach and exchange. That convergence grew deadly. Incessant floods drained the town quicker than any lone catastrophe. By 2019, residents had dwindled. Churches shuttered. Houses burned, not in conflict, but through abandonment and fire. Failure came not financially first. Logistically, residents turned unreasonable on paper. Cairo, Illinois traced another path. Same destination. At its height, it carried weight. Rail, river, industry converged at Illinois' southern point. As factories left and rail faded, the city took on social strain beside environmental threat. In 2011, waters climbed. Evacuation followed. Many never came back. Structures endured. Inhabitants did not. These places were not removed by water alone. They were contoured by choices made far upstream. After 1927, federal resolve hardened into control, levees, flood walls, spillways, mechanisms built to secure navigation and shield key cities. The Mississippi grew reliable where reliability counted. But reliability is selective. Hazard did not vanish. It relocated. Smaller towns, rural clusters, unmarked areas shouldered the force that engineered safety elsewhere. The river ceased its natural wander. Ports like Rodney, conceived in flux, became fixed in exposure, unrewarded. This is not dramatic oversight. Prioritization. With centralized flood mastery, endurance turned conditional. Towns holding economic sway were fortified. Towns lacking it were noted. Rodney did not forfeit its river twice. It forfeited relevance first, safeguard second. Across the region lingers a chart of silent retreats, sites where departure came not from abrupt expulsion, but from the slow erasure of reason to remain. The Mississippi flows on past them, indifferent to size, unmindful of titles. Wherever settlement relied on the river more than it readied for its withdrawal, the result stands inscribed, gradually, by statute, without spectacle, after the system breaks. When a town sheds its purpose, chaos does not follow. Administration does. Across the Mississippi Basin, withdrawal turned procedural. Buyouts supplanted reconstruction. Evacuation schemes displaced sustained commitment. Neighborhoods vanished not solely underwater, but beneath forms that reduced houses to entries and inhabitants to relocations. In 1993, whole settlements along Bear Creek in Missouri were acquired, razed, restored to vacant land. The reasoning held firm. Rebuilding courted recurrence. Departure barred it. What dissolved was not mere structures, continuity. Residents dispersed into settings where common past held no operative force. Rodney met the same fate without formal ceremony. No buyout initiative reached a town already thinned. No orchestrated exodus, only steady erosion. As prospects concentrated elsewhere, staying shifted from communal to individual. Those who endured did so unsupported, unrenewed, without prospect of reversal. This is displacement at its most muted, not announced by alarms or reports, by duration. Schools stay closed. Enterprises pass no titles. Cemeteries cease growth. A place can house people yet cease to perpetuate itself. Certain sites pursued adjustment over surrender. Cities like Dubuque channeled water rather than defied it, uncovering streams, yielding floods to parks, reshaping terrain to accept the inevitable instead of contesting it. Such measures demanded numbers, revenue, political standing. Rodney possessed none when those options arose. The distinction carries weight, not from erroneous decisions, from their timing. The town refined itself for a river trade that had vanished before. Substitutes appeared. What lingers now is not refusal to update. It is proof of sequence. 20th century river restraints secured shipping, shielded large centers, confined the Mississippi to a stricter path. That path accommodated no towns conceived for flux over fixation. Rodney was shaped for a river that roamed. It persisted after the river was disciplined. When frameworks shift quicker than settlements can follow, endurance ceases to hinge on adaptability. It hinges on sanction. Rodney was denied it. The evidence the water leaves behind. Rodney does not appear as ruin. It appears as residue. The approach road narrows, unmarked. Pavement gives way to gravel. Terrain levels, then yields. What lingers of the town offers no welcome. Arrival has lost its purpose. This is no endpoint, a leftover. Floodwater now governs placement. Buildings stand where endurance allowed, not design. Soil retains the imprint of immersion, uneven, soft, unhurried. Every survivor persists on probation. The Presbyterian Church maintains form through momentum more than resistance. Brick outlasts where timber dissolved. Yet the base contradicts. Water has eaten beneath. Gradually, without haste. The cannonball lodged high pulls the eye to past violence. The real erosion works lower. Mount Zion Baptist Church conveys in subtler register. Its passage from white to black congregation followed movement, not doctrine. As people shifted, the structure adjusted. Interior loss is literal. Inundations repeatedly scoured fittings to bare function. Endurance supplanted upkeep. These buildings are not preserved, exposed. The cemetery, placed higher on the bluff, holds firmest ground. The dead secured elevation. The living chase the river. The divide instructs. Lasting required separation from the force that once sustained. A few residents still dwell here, not as keepers of legacy, not as relics. They inhabit the now with clear-eyed calculation. Flood predictions count. Fixes remain provisional. Horizon planning does not fit. This is not defiance of exit. It is existence after exit has already taken place. Rodney no longer rots toward conclusion. It varies with cycles. Dry periods permit habitation. Wet ones enforce memory. The river touches the town now not through trade, through recurrence. Nothing here awaits uncovering. Nothing conceals itself. What endures is not enigma, clarity. Once stripped of influence, defense and reason, survival belongs to whatever tolerates superfluity. Rodney makes no plea for recollection. It merely illustrates the outcome when history advances and delegates the environment to complete the task, the pattern that outlives the town. What befell Rodney lacked the force to halt progress. That is why it multiplied. River towns like Rodney and Cahaba rose not from hubris, from precise alignment, geography, technology, labor, timing. While the fit endured, they thrived. When it fractured, decline wore no mask of defeat, only obsolescence. This distinction decides everything. Catastrophe provokes action. Obsolescence earns quiet. Once the Mississippi was tamed to constancy, towns rooted in its caprice lost their warrant. The river ceased selecting them. No authority stepped in to reinstate the preference. Environmental forces do not obliterate sites outright. They raise the price of residence. Rodney grew costly in unseen columns. Upkeep without return. Exposure without shield. Occupation without aim. Each year compounded resistance. Each cohort lowered endurance. This is how towns vanish in contemporary record. Not in upheaval, but in erosion that appears rational at every turn. Cahaba obeyed the same calculus. A capital sited for reach, subverted by terrain, deserted not for lacking significance but for signifying to an obsolete era. Both expose one inflexible truth. Prosperity bound too tightly to one. Environmental term turns toxic the instant that term alters, not from limited vision. From inability to anticipate a river yet to be re-engineered. The Mississippi did not vanquish these towns, nor did policy alone. Sequence undid them. They emerged when nearness equaled strength, and lingered exactly long enough to witness the reversal. By the time recalibration offered itself, the sustaining frameworks had dissolved. Rodney persists because no decree expelled it. Cahaba persists because no successor claimed it. They stand as finished proofs, evidence that towns, like habitats, can achieve flawless fit yet prove unendurable. When that occurs, history offers no rebuttal. Silence is a measure of loss. Rodney's emptiness carries no drama. It is calibrated. Where streets once bore trade, repetition governs. Water gathers after rain. Grass overtakes walks. Faint footfalls echo paths no longer traveled. Each building endures on terms. Brick withstands scour longer than wood. Faces longer than frames. Yet nothing is guarded from duration. Only from oblivion. The human toll accrues quietly, relentlessly, nearly unseen. Families poised for rooted generations scattered instead. Civic anchors, banks, presses, classrooms, halted not in uproar. In vacancy, the Opera House, bold emblem of assurance, has vanished. Its trace lingers in archives, in scarce images. For those who stay, daily calculus has shifted. Flood alerts dictate motion. Fixes remain expedient. History serves as setting, not compass. Existence persists, but as resonance of a drive long withdrawn. Each choice measures against what has withdrawn: commerce, safeguard, prospect. The Mississippi altered its channel, yet it redrew human terrain with equal precision. The river never assaulted Rodney. It overlooked it, and in that oversight lay its own force, gradual, bureaucratic, inexorable. Other settlements, West Alton, Cairo, myriad unmarked river sites, reflect the identical contour. They chart a repeated outcome. When continuance hinges on distant currents, and those currents veer, loss appears not solely in wreckage, in severed lineage. Rodney does not fall in thunder. It fades in increments, latches left open, footings loosened, kin dispersed. In that hush, the river presses onward, bearing nothing except evidence, endurance without return. Today, Rodney lingers at the crossing of recollection and terrain. The Mississippi no longer marks it as harbor. Floods bring no cargo, only notice. The town is remnant, scattered residents, scoured footings. Churches still testifying to what once moved. A cemetery set high on the bluff, holding names that once filled the lanes beneath. The ground retains the cadence of habitation longer than people do. Roads extend only where use sustains them. Structures brace against weight and seepage. The place holds because departure unfolds slowly, because erasure demands labor. Nature recalls, without haste. Rodney's account is not singular, it instructs. It reveals how systems, wealth, human ties rest on scales beyond design. The Mississippi, unconcerned, conclusive, recast the terms of life along its course, leaving settlements intact in outline, hollow in operation. Visitors meet traces, a cannonball fixed high in brick, the faint contour of a store, the bare ribs of a sanctuary, each piece relic, each piece marker, survival when its cause has withdrawn, endurance when aim has gone. Rodney persists not for restoration, not for complete remembrance, but to display the cost of discord between aspiration and earthly fact. It serves as muted witness, affluence temporary, significance brittle. The river, like duration, advancing without regret. As water probes the edges, as cycles reclaim the ways, the town occupies its last shape, unrequired, yet resistant to total removal. Rodney abides, not awaiting revival, but acknowledgement that the world outlives design, and certain narratives speak loudest through what is missing. Memory carved in silence. Rodney's lesson carries no sermon, no stage. It lies in witness. Walk the traces now. Evidence persists, subtle, relentless. Red brick walls of the Presbyterian. Church bear marks, shell, flood. Years yet stand. The Gothic belfry of Mount Zion tilts faintly, as if noting both habitation and vacancy. Commerce Street survives as impressions in earth. The cemetery lists a generation that lived, traded, passed beside a river that no longer tends them. The town has turned mirror, not to past glory. To the moment systems, natural, social, economic, drift apart. Each remnant, each soaked base, each vacant dwelling forms a point in a web of omission. They map outcomes where human calculation meets scales beyond reach. Even emptied, Rodney holds occupancy, recollection, silt, current, air. It rests on the line between record and terrain, revealing that continuance is not always safeguarding, that lasting offers no promise of restoration. The Mississippi asserts quietly, incontestably, it Neither wipes clean nor reproves. It advances, redirecting focus, trade, existence to what the flow now prefers. In its trail, sites like Rodney endure as open ledgers, not of victory, not of defeat, of unavoidable result. In hush, the town articulates. In the tongue of void, of water, of the price paid for discord with the earth. Rodney abides as demonstration that even deliberate, precisely sited settlements prove transient against powers they cannot command, and that time's muted advance can prove the final arbiter. Patterns etched in the landscape. Rodney is no outlier. It forms one line in a script the Mississippi has inscribed across centuries. Cahaba, Cairo, West Alton. Each settlement repeats the account with minor inflection. Communities founded where water, trade, and drive converged, thriving briefly, then slowly vacated as terrain altered, or as human directives rerouted the powers that once upheld them. The kinship lies not in form or numbers. In principle, rivers favor exactness, penalize inflexibility. Towns honed for one precise instant, an optimal channel. A high-yield harvest, a clear passage, endure only while those terms hold. When the river veers or new transport rises elsewhere, or plague and flame intrude, the very tactics that secured success invert into liability. This registers in the land itself: sandbars, shifted beds, levees, flood zones. They trace verdicts of nature and decree. The Mississippi acts as unseen hand, revising charts of significance. In places like Rodney, it deposits signatures, scoured bases, leaning stacks, cemeteries placed beyond high water. Each sign logs choice, adjustment, void. What binds these sites is not ill fate, timing. They were meticulous constructs, forsaken not for flawed design, but because the elements they required, exchange, conveyance, habitat, moved quicker than human recalibration. Rodney, in its muted continuance, enacts the rule. A working ledger of the moment current turns, commerce relocates, and aspiration confronts the fixed forces it once harnessed. The river proceeds, unbiased. The towns linger not as hubs of traffic, but as notations in the terrain of outcome. Lives between floods. Even as Rodney faded from maps and commerce, life did not disappear entirely. A handful of residents persisted, not out of hope for revival, but out of rootedness. They live measured lives, negotiating with a landscape that has long since abandoned its original promise. Daily routines are dictated by flood forecasts, by erosion, by the knowledge that the river can still decide the terms of existence. Repairs are temporary, structures provisional, and each passing season is a reminder of what it takes to remain when the world has moved on. These people are witnesses to absence. They occupy spaces once filled with markets, music, and children's laughter. They tend churches that host no more than a few congregants, maintain homes that are more fragment than shelter, and navigate streets that exist only because memory insists they do. Their presence transforms Rodney from a ghost town into a lived one, a place where survival is conscious, deliberate, and fragile. In their endurance, the human cost becomes tangible. Families that once shaped the town for generations are scattered. Opportunities vanished long ago. The infrastructure that sustained commerce is gone, leaving labor, care, and daily life as acts of quiet defiance. Yet the choice to remain is not heroic. It is pragmatic, personal, and inescapable. Rodney's living residents provide context to its ruins. Without them, the story would be only brick and earth. With them, it becomes a study of adaptation, attachment, and the quiet dignity of inhabiting a place stripped of its purpose. Even in isolation, even in decay, life continues, measured, provisional, and deeply human. The river flows past as always, and still they remain. The river remembers. Rodney does not demand attention. It does not plead or dramatize. It waits. In the silence of its streets, in the tilt of its churches, in the unmarked rhythm of floodwater across its foundations, it records the consequences of alignment and misalignment between human ambition, environment, and time. The Mississippi flows on, indifferent yet precise, indifferent yet inevitable. It chooses new paths, redirects commerce, reshapes landscapes, and leaves behind evidence rather than explanation. The town's remnants, cannonballs lodged above windows, hollowed-out store foundations, cemeteries above the bluff speak in quiet testimony. They are markers of lives lived and lost, of economies rendered obsolete, of decisions made and forces unheeded. Each tells a story not of heroism nor of failure, but of consequence. Rodney endures as memory, as fragment, as archive. It shows that prosperity is provisional, Relevance is conditional and survival is never guaranteed. Its streets are empty, yet they carry a presence more insistent than occupancy. The presence of what happens when the environment moves faster than human intention. The river still flows past. Rodney remains behind. And in that enduring silence, the story of a town, and of every town shaped by water and time, is complete.